Alrighty team, how are we doing? I know this one is going to be eagerly anticipated. We're going to be talking about how to get your first bar muscle up. And in this video, I'll take you through the exact stages and processes that I go through with my own athletes to help them go from not being able to do a bar muscle up to being able to do one. Now, this video is really going to be a summary of the 4 or 5 stages that I go through with each athlete. I probably will make further videos to follow this up, which is going to break down each stage in a bit more detail, but I don't really want to be talking on YouTube for an hour. So this is going to be a really great summary to give you a good understanding as how to take yourself from where you are now, which pieces of the puzzle might be missing, and ultimately how you are going to build that rep. So the first thing to consider, probably most important element and might be a sticking point for many people as soon as you get to this screen, is having related strength. Now, the bar muscle up is a very technical movement. There's a lot going on that you need to master, but if you don't have the underlying strength in order to do it, all of the effort you could put in over several months of doing drills is kind of going to go in vain. And a bar muscle up is always such a big goal. So when I'm coaching athletes, often it comes up like, when can I start my bar muscle up? When can I do it? I've got my toes bar, I've got my handstand push up, I've got my chest bar. Now, obviously, the next step is a muscle up. And yes and no, because the process to get there is often very long and drills over time can feel very tedious. I like to make sure that my athletes are at the correct strength before they start the drills so that we don't elongate the process for even longer. So what I've got on the screen right now isn't like a textbook answer. There's no research here or rules of when you should or shouldn't start, but personally with my athletes, here are my prerequisites. So they have to be able to do most of the things on this screen, which is 10 strict pull-ups, a body weight bench press, so that's just their own weight, whatever they weigh. So in my situation, I weigh 60 kilos. I should be able to do a 1 rep max at 60 kilos or more. 20 toes bar, 20 kipping handstand push-ups. And those are a bit grey because really I just want to see that they have a high capacity of a pull-based gymnastic skill. Toes bar being the most obvious because it uses the same kip swing, and a push-based gymnastic skill. And to me, a kipping handstand push-up, because it has a press, is far more realistic than a handstand walk. I'd like them to be able to do 5 bodyweight dips, so that's just holding their own weight on P-bars or rings, and be able to do 5 dips, and then be able to kip swing with their eye above the bar. And in my opinion, if someone can do all of these things or most of these things, then they are ready to start doing drills to work towards a muscle up and have a good chance of getting it in the coming weeks and months. So this also means if you can't yet do some of these movements, but you are actively working towards them, in theory, you're still working towards your muscle up. And that's how I kind of work with the mindset with my athletes. Like, oh, I really want to start working on my muscle up. I'm like, well, if you're working towards 10 strict pull-ups, you are working towards your muscle. So breaking down some additional things that I would be working on, these are my prerequisites to start. Once we have established we're starting, I'll be doing a lot of push-based strength and a lot of pull-based strength. The bar muscle up is a little bit unique in that way. You can kind of categorize most of the gymnastic skills into either push or pull, but muscle ups are a combination of the two, which is why they're quite tricky, because you have to be strong through both elements, which means you need to actively be working on your push and your pull each week. Now, if you're just starting the bar muscle up journey, I would be having at least 50% of your training week on push and pull in relation to your bar muscle up training week. So if you're doing 2 sessions a week, one would be on push and pull strength, one would be on drills, so half and half. If you are really strong and you've kind of got all of these elements really easily, then you can work more in favor of doing more drills. So here are some examples of pushbait strength. This is only 3 examples. So there's tons of different things you can be doing, but I find really relevant things to be dips to start with. At the top of your bar muscle up, you do have to do a dip out of the bar. And also the muscle up itself does involve pushing around the bar the whole time. So dips are a great one here. Bench press, like I said, one of my prerequisites is to be able to do a bodyweight bench. There are lots of different variations of this. Here I've got a banded bench. This is awesome because it's creating a power element to my bench press. And in your bar muscle up, it's essentially a power movement. So being able to work against a band is really awesome. And then finally, Russian dips. These are really, really challenging. They are very applicable to ring muscle ups as well. So if that is also a skill in your list, then this one is awesome. But this helps you transfer weight from kind of back to front and be able to press out of it. So Coach Andy here is going to make this look super easy. Mine does not look anywhere near as clean as this. But essentially, you're going to start on your elbows, rock your body weight forward onto your hands, and then push out. Most athletes, when you first try that, will need to do it with your feet on the floor. It is really tough, so don't worry if you struggle there. Now, again, there's a million different things you can be doing for pull-based strength. I've just picked out 3 good examples. One of them is a lat pull down. So you can do this no matter what your ability level because it's not a skill-based movement. So whack a band of any strength onto the rig. Obviously, the strongest one that you can move against is going to be the best one, and work on your pull-based strength that way. This one is quite challenging. So when we think about kip swings, normally we think about quite a small type movement, maybe a little bit of height, but not too much. For your bar muscle up in your pull strength section, I'd really like you to be working on getting your eyes above the bar. So that's doing a kip swing and being able to pull down in a straight arm position so that your arms are more or less parallel to the floor and you've got a clear vision above the bar. So again, it's quite challenging to do. You might need to start in singles, but this is a great example. Andy's miles above the bar, but even if you've just got eyes above, this is a great pull strength movement. Now, one final one is a ice cream maker. This one's good because it teaches you how to use whole body tension. So I've used a couple of bands in this one. You probably will need to start with 2. Those who are really good at this can do this with 1 or none. You want to hop up above the bar, get yourself in a straight line, chin over, and then you're pushing with a straight arm, getting your body to go flat and then pulling straight in. And the key here is that you try and maintain tension. A lot of people can push out, but then they can't get back in. So add extra bands so that you can do the movement and then slowly take them away. Alrighty, so let's assume that you've got all your prerequisites or most of them. You're actively working on push strength, you're actively working on pull strength, and all of those movements relate to the shapes in the bar muscle up. What do you need to do drills wise in order to actually get it? Now, this is my favorite sequential drill sequence. Often when I start working with an athlete who's already started working on muscle ups, they'll send me through a video, and nearly every single time I'll identify that at least one of their positions is out. So I want you to think of your muscle up because it's so tricky and complicated to think of it all in one go. We want to think about sections that follow on from each other. So I'll show you all this in a second, but the first section is jumping on and hitting a good hollow. Now, most of the time athletes completely wash over this first stage. It's probably the most important stage because the initial shape that you hit when you jump onto the bar transfers into the rest of the movement. The next most important stage is the arch. So we think about the hollow first, then we think about the arch under the bar. And normally it's one of those 2 movements that is going wrong that is throwing off the rest of the movement. You need to have a really big hollow behind the bar, and I'll point out the positions in a second. And then you need to have a really big, long, slow, and exaggerated arch in front of the bar for you to be able to get enough momentum to go behind it. So we want to really work on these initial stages. And often when I'm coaching, an athlete will be just working on their hollow position for 1 or 2 weeks. Then they'll be working on adding in their arch. And again, that will take a couple of weeks to get right. Then we start working on the rest of the movement. So don't be alarmed if you're doing this and it takes a while to get it correctly because it looks really simple, but when you actually practice it, sometimes it can feel a bit tricky. So this initial hollow position when you jump on, I wish I'd have filmed this more from the side. What I am looking for is your butt to be back, you to be in a piked shape, and your feet to be in line with the rig. So let's see if I hit any of those positions. We jump into a hollow and you just hold it. You'll swing forward, swing back, and land on your feet. It also helps if you do start on a plate. So butt was back, feet initially were in line with the rig, and then you just swing forward and swing back. And the important thing here is you hold your hollow shape as you're swinging through and swinging back, because when you get to your next drill and we add the arch, you have to hold your hollow position as you travel under the bar and the arch is delayed and comes through the other side. Most of the time people rush their hollow into their arch. They jump on, the hollow's not very good. Then they go into an arch straight away as they're passing under the bar, and it creates a movement that then ends up too short. So it's really a case of jump and hold your hollow, hold it as you travel under the bar. As you've got under it, then you push into your arch, and you want it to be as far the other way as possible, ideally with your chest pointing up to the sky and feet in front of where the rig was. So again, nice big arch. I might actually be able to see. Oh, hang on. Okay, do you see this hollow? I know my other one wasn't filmed from the side, but this is what I mean with butt back, feet in line with the rig. Really, really big gap here. That's what we're aiming for. And then again, in your arch to the side, we want to see your chest ideally up here. I don't think I quite got there, but yeah, it wasn't too bad. So again, feet stay in line with the rig. You'll notice they were in line with the rig on the hollow. They were in line with the rig on the arch, and chest is pointing up and skyward. Once you've got these two movements nailed, then we want to add in a pull. And at this stage, we're not worrying about our legs at all. We just want to snap back from this arch position and pull down as hard and as fast as you can with your arms. So, like I said, we're not really worrying about our legs, hollow, arch, pull. And I just want to see how far you can go backwards and also how much you can pull your chest up. So, I think we'll do one more. Hollow, arch, pull, just as far as you can. So, every time you jump onto the bar and you're adding a stage on, you need to think of it in this sequence: hollow, arch, pull. They're your first 3 stages. Next up, now we're going to add a knee to chest. Now, there's a few different ways you can teach a bar muscle up. Personally, with most athletes, I find a knee tuck method to be the most successful. Then, once you've developed it with a knee tuck, it's then quite easy to turn it into a straight leg movement if you want to. You don't have to, but I definitely think this is the easiest way to learn it. When we're doing our knee tuck, now after our arch, we do the same aggressive pull down with the arms, so as hard and as fast as you possibly can. And you want to drive your knees into your armpits or to your elbows, whatever cue works better for you, as hard and as fast as you can. And the idea with this drill is you want to travel as quick as possible, as forcefully as possible, as hard as possible as you can up and behind the bar. And you want to create a ball up at the top. So let's have a look at this now. We've got hollow, arch, pull. And that's the position we're aiming for here, where your knees are up by the bar and your whole body is in a ball behind it. If I was critiquing myself, I would actually, if an athlete sent this to me, I would tell them their feet should be up in line with their knees. Mine were dangling a little bit. But this is the position we're aiming for, up and behind the bar. And when you're doing this, the main teaching point is just to think about speed, force, power, as much aggression as you can, as high as you can. Just get back, as put all of your effort into this, creating this ball behind the bar. So let's watch it again. Hollow, arch, pull and ball. And get used to doing this. And if you're filming and watching yourself, don't move on to the next drill until your body is up here behind the bar. Your knees are tucked up and you're going fast. Up and back. Okay, the next and final drill, if you like. And actually, when I did this drill, I accidentally did a bar muscle up, which might happen to you. That's kind of the way my athletes end up getting it, is we want to now transition from the ball to the hip pop. So in the stage before, we were thinking about power, speed, getting us back as fast as we can. We still want to put all of that effort and oomph into the movement, but we're going to add a hip hop and it's going to happen quite early in the sequence. So as soon as you start to knee tuck and as soon as your body starts to travel underneath the bar, we're going to do what's called a hip hop, which is where you uncurl. So you're in a ball at the minute and you open your body shape. And as you're opening your body shape, you thrust your hips up to the bar. And really that is this final drill, is adding the hip hop. The aim here is to get your hips touching the bar. Now, I accidentally did a muscle up when I was filming this, just because it kind of does naturally happen once you've got to this stage. But we're going to watch myself go from, I'll see if I can pause it. Hollow, arch, knee tuck. There's the knee tuck. And here is where I do the hip hop. There we go. I hip hopped and I slammed into the bar. And you and your drill might just fall down from this position, but I ended up just popping over because it was honestly easier. So let's watch that again. We've got hollow, arch, knee tuck, and here is where I explode. So from this position, my knees and legs are going down, and that is a counterbalance for my chest coming up. So everything kind of works together and you leverage yourself from here to here. And the purpose of this is to get a hip to bar connection. So 1, 2, 3, ready, bang, there. That's the position you're looking for. And you'll see here, I'm also, this is how you end up doing the muscle up, but you're actively pushing down through your shoulders, flare your, actively pushing down through your arms, elbows will flare up, and whoosh, you should just pop up. Okay, so that is kind of my magical sequence that every athlete I'm working with is working through. Now, there are some other things that we can do to kind of troubleshoot. Often what happens is my athletes get really good at those first few stages. So they've got a beautiful hollow, a beautiful arch, they've got a really strong pull, they've got a decent pop, but they keep popping and their hips keep touching the bar and they're like, I just can't turn over. I get stuck at that top position. And that may well happen to you. So this is what these stages are for now. This is how to isolate the turnover and get your body used to the connection between the hip hop and the turnover. So we've got 3 different stages to this movement. The first stage, just kind of getting used to the setup. You're going to be with a barbell at about hip height, wrap a thick band behind it. All you're doing is keeping your arms straight, sliding your body into the bar, keeping in a nice tight hollow position, and then pushing down through your arms and coming back to the same position. So you just kind of need to get used to that rhythm to start with. The next phase, we're going to add a little bit of a hip extension. So we're going to add that lift up, snap down. And in doing that, we're just aiming to travel a little bit further back. So it's a under, lift up, snap down. So we're just aiming to get behind the bar at this point. Lift under, snap up, snap down. And then the final drill, which where you actually do the transition, is we're trying now to get a hip hop which connects into a hip to bar connection, which connects into a rollover. Can take a while, can take a few weeks, but this is a very useful drill for you to be doing. So it's in slow mo, that's good. You slide under the bar, lift up, snap down. You see my hips travel up to it, and then you roll over. Now, this is actually the straight leg technique rather than a knee tuck, but you can do this with a knee tuck, and you can do it with a straight leg and it will still translate to your muscle up. It's actually a little bit tricky to do the banded drill with a knee tuck. I find it easier to do the straight leg one, but it will still translate into the previous set of drills. So don't overstress about the leg positions. The important thing here is we're getting the timing of that weightless feeling where you lift up, snap, and the hips come up to the bar. So this is a really great one to get under your belt as well. Alrighty, last kind of thing that we can do. So say you've got your transition drill, you've got all your height, and you're just kind of struggling just to put it together. Again, it's quite common. Like I said, this movement takes a very long time to gain, and perhaps this set of drills will be useful for you as well. So here's one drill where we can do a box bar muscle up, but instead of having 2 feet on the box where you kind of just jump over the top, here we're actually adding the kipping swing into it. You'll notice here that Coach Andy, he drives his knee up to the bar in a similar way that you would do in those initial swings, and he practices the turnover at the top. With this drill, you'll probably either get it first time or it's going to take ages. It's one of those bit of a brain fart moments sometimes. But that's one option we can do. This drill here is a little bit harder, in my opinion. Here we are trying to practice the hollow, the arch, and the hip to bar connection. I do this from a double box and jump into it because it makes it a little bit easier. So if you have struggled in that sequential drill at the start to get your hips up, here is an assisted drill that can make it a little bit easier for you. And you can add bands into this as well if you want to. So we start on the box, hollow. I'm still going to point out all my positions. Arch, knee drive, and hip hop. So that was my hips going to the bar. Let's watch it in full speed. We got hollow, arch, drive, and pop. Again, really good for practicing power, really good for getting you up and close to the bar. Okay, and then the final piece of the puzzle is a banded bar muscle up. Now, I do like using banded bar muscle ups, but I like using them fairly infrequently and definitely not as your primary source to get the movement. When you add bands, it's actually really challenging to get those shapes correct because the bands work against you a little bit. So whenever you're doing them, you really need to think about, I jump onto the bar, I hit my hollow, I swing into my arch, I pull down aggressively, I hip up and aim to touch my hips to the bar and then roll over. The bands tend to shorten the whole movement. So the hollow at the start smaller, the arch ends up being smaller, the pull isn't as much, but you still manage to make the muscle up because you've got bands. So I don't like overusing them because as soon as athletes take the bands away, they jump up onto the bar and they're nowhere near the shapes that they need to be producing. So this is a good thing to add in, but athletes are like, oh my gosh, I got a banded muscle up, and I look at their movement and I'm thinking your positions are all over the place. The only reason you got over the bar is because you've got a band on, and that you don't want that to be the situation. So I tried really hard here to get all of my positions because I haven't done a banded bar muscle up in so long. It was a bit challenging, I won't lie. But here we go. Hollow. I tried my hardest. arch. Arch was pretty good actually, I'll take that. The bands on my first attempt slid up my legs, but here we go. Then we've got the pull and the hip hop, and here my hips are gonna hopefully get up to the bar. I missed a bit, but here we go. Let's watch that again. Hollow, arch, pop, and up. The reason it was a little bit challenging to get what I found to get my hips to the bar in this is because the bands were about to fly at my legs and I had to try and think about those. So a band in my muscle up is definitely a good tool to have, but it's not something to fall back on. The other drills are far more important with actually building your rep. Alrighty, this is a little bit of motivation for you all because I can imagine some people watching this have probably been trying to get a muscle up for months or even years and they just feel like they're all over the place. And hopefully, this video has been useful for you. This first video here is Ellis. So, she actually got this rep within 3 weeks of doing the drills that I've ran you through in this presentation. Perhaps if you're really close and you're just missing the final ticking points, you will be like Ellis, and within 3 weeks, you'll have yours. That would be absolutely awesome. Now, Alana, I was coaching for a lot longer. She took several months to get this rep. She did all of the things she needed to do. She did all of the strength work, all of the drills. She listened to me. She applied corrections, and we got there within a few months. So, great job, Alana. Maybe that will apply to some of you guys. Ellie, similar situation to Alana. She spent a long time building a really strong base. We've been doing strict strength as a priority with her forever. So once we started actually putting the pieces of this presentation together, it didn't take her long at all. And this is kind of reiterating you really need to be working on your prerequisites to make the journey shorter and more enjoyable for yourself. So hopefully you've got a little bit of motivation from those guys. All right, I'm going to leave this for now. Like I said, I probably could do a 2-hour presentation on a muscle up sequence, and maybe I will do more detailed versions of different parts of it. If you would like coaching help, obviously, I hope you can tell by now, this is my job. So, my Instagram, if you don't have it already, is coach_Briscoe. If you have any queries about this video or you want some help with a particular skill, or maybe you just want to chat through what coaching might look like for you, just send me a message with the word athlete. We'll start the conversation with me and we can have a chat about what you're trying to do. But I hope this video really helped, guys, and best of luck with your own journey to getting your first bump muscle.